ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Buddy Movies, the place where buddies talk about movies. I am your co-host, Mark Young.
And I'm your co-host, Anthony Watkins.
All right. We have a big show tonight. It is our 70th episode.
Number 70. We're getting close to that big 100. We're not, got a ways to go, but we're getting there.
Mm-hmm. I think we said something about doing a live stream for 75. That would be the Monday before Thanksgiving. Should be our 75th episode. Yeah, and actually I found a new program today that I haven't had time to look into, but it's kind of like Zencaster, but for broadcasting, and it's free.
Okay.
And allows you to do like some of the stuff that we do, like the way I've stylized our newer videos. It allows us to do that, but like in a live stream. So gotcha. I'm going to look into that program. I need to, excuse me, I'm still battling off a cold, which is why some of our videos and stuff have been getting up late this week. It really came to a head last night. But yeah. We'll get back on it, ladies and gentlemen, and updating the website and everything else. Before we get started here, just remember to like, share, and subscribe, because that's the biggest thing you can do if you like this show.
Yeah, check out our Facebook, and we're on Twitter as well.
And always our own website and Patreon. Right. Patreon is /Buddy Movies.
Yep, patreon.com/Buddy Movies.
And the Buddy Movies Podcast, or buddymoviespodcast.com.
Yep.
For our website. So, let's just get into it.
Yeah.
Which one shall we do first? Kevin Feige?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's start off spicy?
Let's start off really spicy, yeah.
Do you want to read that, or you want me to?
Maybe, I can read it here. I have it pulled up. So my article this week this is from empireonline.com. Title here is Kevin Feige on not recasting T'Challa in the MCU. His quote, "It was much too soon." So basically, as we all know, Black Panther 2 is coming out, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and obviously Chadwick Boseman's passing complicated things, and they had to make a decision on whether to recast him or to continue on with a different storyline, and they opted to go with a different storyline here. I will read here. It says, in the MCU, stories of Black Panther have so far focused primarily on the character of T'Challa, from his introduction in Captain America Civil War through to groundbreaking solo outing Black Panther, and into Infinity War and Endgame, as he took over the mantle of his fallen king, father T'Chaka. But following the tragic loss of Chadwick Boseman, Ryan Coogler's sequel, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, will be a very different kind of Black Panther movie, one without T'Challa at its center, though still very much about his legacy. Marvel made the decision not to recast the role and instead find a different approach for the sequel in the ongoing story of Wakanda, a move taken to honor Boseman. But the choice has also seen pushback, with some fans concerned that Marvel no longer telling stories with T'Challa might diminish the importance of a character who has come to represent so much to so many. The extended quote from Kevin Feige was, "It just felt like too much, like it was much too soon to recast," he says, likening their approach to Marvel's longstanding ethos in the comics. Stan Lee always said that Marvel represents the world outside your window. And we talked about how, as extraordinary and fantastical as our characters and stories are, there is a relatable and human element to everything we do. The world is still processing the loss of Chad, and Ryan poured that into this story. End quote. So the question here is, the main question: do you agree with Kevin Feige and MCU's choice here, or do you think they should have recast him and continued on with this character? I personally, I'll just start off, I think they made the right decision here. I think with Chadwick Boseman, his passing, it's just exactly like Feige said. I think it's way, way too soon to try to immediately recast him, even though it would continue on with his character. I think this is a better representation of honoring his character and what he put into the role by going a different route here. That's my personal opinion on it. I know it has, like the article said, that people have, shown some displeasure over this. But honestly, like, I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of, maybe because I'm just not on Twitter enough. I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of outbursts and outcry over this. Have you?
I've seen nothing, which is why I thought it was interesting that they said that there was some outcry against it. I've seen no one complaining about that. I'm curious how they're going to do it in the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which route they're taking. I have no idea what they're doing with the story. If it's going to be because they lost him during the snap. So does this movie take place during the snap, or does it take place afterwards and he died for some other reason off screen? These are important questions to find out. I think that I think if this movie takes place during the snap and they have them mourning the loss of T'Challa that way, it gives them an opportunity to recast later. And also explain why maybe there's no Avengers or other people helping out with everything that's going on here in Wakanda. But on the other hand, maybe recasting it all is just not in their plans.
Yeah.
Excuse me again. I honestly think never recasting the character would be a mistake because there's so much more to do with T'Challa. There's so much more that the character can do and can become, especially now that they're adding certain other elements into the story, namely mutants. He has a big relationship with Storm throughout the comics, who is a well-known X-Men. So it's just this thing of there's so much more that they can do with the character than just letting him die. Although, I mean, it is the MCU and they do go their own route. So maybe they're just done with him. I'm curious to see how this movie does. I'm curious to see where the story goes. Yeah. I mean, I'm just really into this movie. I mean, I'm not surprised they didn't recast for it.
The teaser trailer is tremendous, I think.
It's a very good trailer. And they keep coming out with more teasers, and I keep seeing more stuff about Namor, the route they're going with him. I'm curious to see what they do there. It could be really good. It could also blow up in their faces because no one really knows what to expect out of these films, and what is going to be popular and what isn't set in stone anymore. As much as people turn out for Marvel movies, it's not guaranteed that they're going to turn out for every single film. I don't think Thor did it. How did Thor do?
It did all right, like box office wise. Obviously, the critical reception was way down from what was expected out of Taika Waititi. So I'm just do a quick Googling here. What was I forget the name. Love and Thunder for.
And I know that what was it? Multiverse of Madness got just blasted. People hated that movie.
Love and Thunder got $760.7 million worldwide, so it's likely not going to cross $1 billion. Which a Marvel movie is a bit of almost these days looked at as a failure if you don't cross $1 billion, even in the post-pandemic era. Yeah,
obviously still better than Black Widow or Shang-Chi, but they were mid-pandemic.
Right.
And they still pulled out the 400 or 500 or more each.
Yeah. And Spider-Man, the third Spider-Man got what, 1.5 billion, I want to say.
Yeah.
It obviously did really well.
So, yeah. For the fourth outing and for how pumped and everything that people were for Thor, I mean, it really comes down to the fact of repeat sales. You have to convince people to come back and see your story over and over again.
Yeah.
And if the story doesn't put out, they're not going to do it.
If you don't like the movie the first time, you're not going to like it the second time or the third time.
Yeah, if they do something ridiculous or stupid with the excuse me, with the story here, it's going to bomb. You know, so it's curious to see what they're going to go with. I'm excited for it. I do think he's eventually going to need to be recast. They're eventually going to have to bring the character back. But if they've killed him off post the snap, then I don't know how they're going to do that. And if they're planning on not doing that, then, you know, we just lost another pillar in the Marvel Avengers, you know, like, because he was essentially, he could have been the person to take over for Tony as far as like leadership wise. You know, we lost both Tony and Captain America in the end game. One to death, one to old age. And so it's kind of like Thor may or may not be back, or maybe he's off doing his own thing. You know, we're not really sure. And then they have a much younger crew coming up in all the TV shows. And I just think that they're going to need some of that experience. You know, Black Widow's not around anymore. We have Hulk, but even he is like, they're going back and forth with him. Did you watch the last episode of She-Hulk?
I still have not. No, I don't get around to it. I heard you said I should definitely check it out for some. I
think you should have watched the last episode just because I want to talk about it.
Yeah, I can do that.
Well, no, I also don't care about spoiling it either.
No, I don't know.
Hulk's son shows up in the last episode. Like, just as in, like, Hulk being like, hey, look, I have a son. And it was literally done so just, like, casually, where I was like, dude, Marvel, you showed the off-screen thing on screen and the on-screen thing off-screen. Like, what the heck? You know, like, I would have liked to see the story of, like, him going to retrieve his son and figuring out he has a son and learning all that information. Like, what just happened here?
Yeah.
You know, like, hello.
Wow. That's out of left field a little bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have this other Hulk now. So now there's 3 Hulks. They just recast William Russ's. Is that it? William Russ? No, not Russ.
Not Russ. Ross? No, it's not it.
Maybe the character's name is Ross. Thunderbolt?
The character's name, I think, is Ross.
Yeah. It was William Hurt.
Yes.
Yeah, he played Thunderbolt, the guy who's going to lead the Thunderbolts, the Red Hulk. They recast it with Harrison Ford. He's going to appear in the next Captain America movie. And he's also going to appear in the Thunderbolts. And I'm assuming he's going to be Red Hulk. So we're going to have 4 Hulks now running around in this universe. That's a lot of Hulk.
That's a lot of Hulk. That's a lot of anger.
So I would have liked to see more of what they were going to do with that. She-Hulk, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm not sure if it was received well or not. They're, of course, going to say it is because they always say everything is. But I didn't really care for the series. I've never read She-Hulk comic books, so whether or not it was a well adaptation of the comic books, I cannot say. It just wasn't my cup of tea. It was a completely different genre than what I'm used to with Marvel, which is fine because actually I do miss that element of genre switching that Marvel used to do, because you had Captain America was a World War II movie. You had Thor, which was this like Greek epic, you know, you had the epic costumes and, you know, the tragedy tale there. You know, Iron Man was an action film. You had these different types of genres, kind of, that what they were doing. With Hulk was kind of like a horror-esque, you're fighting against yourself revenge film almost, So the movies would switch genres, and then suddenly they kind of stopped doing that. I feel like mid phase 2, and the genre now was Marvel movie, and they all became very much the same type of films where we're constantly seeing the irreverent comedy. We're seeing the, you have the action. Everything has to end with like a big epic fight scene at the end where a whole bunch of characters come together to fight the baddie. And, it is kind of lame. So I do like the fact that She-Hulk went away from that.
Yeah.
But I feel like if they're going to do that, then they need to do it with other things as well. They can't just do it with this one product.
Right.
And try and act as if they're all the others can be Marvel and this can be different and that's okay. No, you need to let the other things be different as well.
For the record, I've said this before. I still loved Edward Norton as the Hulk. Incredible Hulk. I know it gets dumped on a lot, but I did love.
I thought he was really good. I don't think it was bad at all. I mean, I've been seeing a lot of comparisons lately talking about how that Hulk would completely destroy the Hulk now, and I don't know. It's an evolution that the Hulk took. He decided to combine the two personalities, and hey, that advanced the character. Again, I wish they would have done it on screen. I feel like we deserve to see that merging happen, but
just all of a sudden there he was in Endgame, or was it Endgame? Yeah. And you're just like, wait, what? What happened here?
Exactly. All right, moving on to our next article that I brought up. This is Netflix.
Yes.
And their big move, which I feel like they're following in the footsteps of the predecessor that they brag so much about beating. But we'll go over that. So Time Magazine, time.com, using someone else's Netflix password, a crackdown is coming in early 2023. Netflix will officially start charging for password sharing in early 2023, the company said in its October letter to shareholders, despite facing immediate backlash when it announced it was rolling out a pilot password sharing program in March. Netflix said this week that it's moving forward with its plan to monetize account sharing by making subscribers pay an additional fee for sharing their account with users outside their household. The company said it's going to give users who are borrowing someone else's account the ability to transfer their existing profile information, including viewing history and personalized recommendations, to their own account. Subscribers who want to keep sharing with family or friends outside of their household will also have the ability to pay for sub-accounts for extra members. Netflix began experimenting with charging for password sharing in Costa Rica, Chile, and Peru earlier this year. Subscribers in those three countries were able to add up to 2 extra members to their accounts for an additional $2.99 or 2,380 Chilean pesos and 7.9 Peruvian sol, respectively, each per month. Netflix has not yet announced how much it is planning to charge for the service in other countries. I think this move is going to hurt Netflix more than it's going to help them.
Yeah.
They're already one of the most expensive services. I know that they're upwards of $14.99 for some accounts, which are the ones where you're trying to get at least 4 screens playing at the same time, probably because you're sharing your account. But the reality is, if that's the case, you're already paying $14.99. Adding even $3 onto that, adding probably, because we're American, they're going to want to charge more, $5 extra. Nah,
it's not happening.
Way. It's not happening.
Who would actually do that? Like willingly do that? I think that's very, very few people. My big question about all this is how are they going to actually enforce this? I have seen nothing online of how Netflix is actually going to enforce you not sharing your password. Are they requiring you to be on one Wi-Fi network? Are they tracking your IP address? I have, like, how are they actually going to enforce this?
Exactly, because you can use different devices.
Right.
Like, I can be in a household. I can have it on my phone. I can be at work using it on my phone, and my wife could be here using it on her tablet. My kids could be watching on the TV.
Exactly. So, that's like,
that's one household.
That's one household. Unless they require you to be on one Wi-Fi network, which I don't even think they will. I don't even see them doing that. I don't know how they're going to force this.
To me, it also brings up the fact that I think the only way they can truly enforce this is kind of through a violation of our privacy. They got to be getting some information somehow,
right?
From the IP, from the internet provider that is telling them how this is working. Obviously, if you're in two different locations, drawing from the same account, that might be one thing. You know what I mean? Especially states away.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that work for college kids? Because a college kid is still in the same household by every other metric, even by like insurance stuff until they can be up to 26. They can still be counted as the same household. So why would a Netflix account be counted as separate from that just because they live states away?
Yeah. Or what if your son or daughter goes off for a camping trip or something and wants to watch Netflix one night? I mean, I don't know how they expect to enforce this. The whole one Wi-Fi network doesn't even work because if you go to a hotel, obviously you're going to be on a different Wi-Fi network. So
yeah, exactly. Or even a VPN can throw this off, which might be another thing that they look at because they don't want people to be hurting anything. Right. I just think it's like, they talk about how in April it was their first time having lost money.
Right.
Their first quarter of having lost viewers, a net loss in viewers. And I don't think a crackdown is going to help you gain more people supporting your cause or supporting your product. Mm-hmm. I honestly think that they're at the point where they're taking hits from the streaming wars because they aren't able to get as many items anymore because so many of these other providers are now making their own. They can't get Disney and Marvel movies. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, because all those are on Disney and Marvel.
Yeah.
So they're having to find other ways to get these movies now or come up with their own content. And I just think that they're losing market share and they're starting to make some bad decisions. Yeah. This is a time when companies become blockbuster and they go away.
I think Netflix reached its peak several years ago, pre-Disney Plus, and they are starting to go into desperation mode where they're sitting around saying to themselves, okay, how can we increase our revenue? What can we do to get more subscribers here? Because obviously the amount we have now is not enough for the amount of content we're producing, and we're starting to lose people. And I also know they're going to start rolling out an ad-supported plan to try to gain people a lower tier price.
Yeah, so they can charge less money, but
hopefully get more people.
I don't think that's actually going to help them at all. Like they're losing what they originally had, which was like their model was the fact that they were different from all the other things that were out there. No late fees was the selling point for their DVDs at first. You could have the DVD for as long as you wanted, as long as you were paying your monthly fee.
Yeah.
Now it's like, hey, we're going to find a way to screw you over if you're sharing this with too many people. Granted, you're allowed to have 5 profiles, so you can't have more than 5 profiles.
Yeah.
Why does it matter which house they're in?
Right.
Like, who cares?
I don't care whose profile I'm on. If I have access to everything, who cares? I don't care about my history or my, what do they call it? My recommendations or whatever. No, I don't care. Yeah,
right. Exactly. No one cares about that.
No.
Maybe a few people. I don't know. But like realistically, no. I think people come on for the specific content that they're trying to watch. They're trying to get a hold of. And if they don't have it, then they don't have it. Yeah. I mean, I dropped Netflix literally the month after we got Disney Plus.
Yeah.
Because there was just nothing on Netflix that was keeping us there. They were losing The Office.
Yeah.
They were losing The Office. So I knew that I wasn't going to have that in a couple more months. So that was the main thing I was using Netflix for. And our kids were watching one show on there, which was True. And so there were plenty of other shows on Disney Plus that were comparable that our kids would watch just the same. So we were able to drop that because it was only 2 shows, and I haven't looked back. I mean, the kids begged for True at one point at the beginning of this year, and my wife signed up for Netflix again. She paid for 1 month and then canceled it.
Yeah, because
there still wasn't anything that we wanted to watch on there. I think we watched one movie. It was Ryan Reynolds, The Rock, and Gal Gadot, and some heist movie. We watched that.
Okay.
And but yeah, there just wasn't much on there that really drew us to it. So
they have produced very little that I actually like. I mean, Stranger Things, honestly, is the main thing. One of the only things that I really use Netflix for these days.
And I missed the fact that I haven't seen the last 2 seasons of that show.
Yeah.
Wait, how many seasons have they had now?
There is 4 out right now.
Okay, yeah. So I haven't seen 3 and 4. So I missed those 2 seasons, but honestly, it really hasn't affected me. There's so much other stuff that I can watch on the other things that I have. Like, I keep finding more and more. Like, I'm actually wrapped up in too many TV shows right now because of how much is on Peacock and HBO Max, which are the 2 I actually pay for myself.
Yeah. No, there's just, and their original movies, by and large, are absolutely terrible. They're terrible. They spend so much money. I've never seen a company spend so much money on just utter crap. I mean, and they for some reason, they think if they make these high budget movies, no matter how bad they are, people will want to watch them. But no one does. I don't know anybody who wants to watch a high budget, crappy movie, you know?
It's so bizarre. Because I remember I actually was in a class and someone said something about how nobody actually wants Netflix for their original content, except for the fact that at that point I was subscribed to Netflix for their original content. You sign up, you sign off, you sign up, you sign out, because of money. But I had signed back up with Netflix because they had all those Marvel shows. That's literally the reason I signed back up. And those shows were actually great. I loved Daredevil season 1 and 2. I loved Jessica Jones. Luke Cage was a little weaker, but still very solid show. Iron Fist was probably the weakest of them all. But I was still enjoying those shows. That's why I signed up for Netflix, was these original gritty shows, and they were great and they were fantastic. And then they somewhere along the lines kind of lost the plot. In my opinion, Stranger Things was another one. Like, their original content for a while was fantastic. Yeah. I just think that they were on top for so long, and they underestimated the power of Disney. I don't know how you underestimate the power of Disney, but they did. Right. They underestimated the power of Disney.
Yeah, they thought people, and end of the day, people will still come watch because we're Netflix. We're big bad Netflix. People will stay with us no matter what. And that's not been the case.
Not been the case. And here they are cracking down. Nah, this is a bad business move. Terrible move. They're going to lose so many viewers.
Yeah. I think this could be the beginning of the end for them. I think they have peaked. They peaked in like 2014, 15, 16, and they're sliding downhill.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to our next articles. We're doing a little bit extended because I want to get these topics out here. I want to talk about these. Yeah. Because there's a couple things. I'm not, you're a big Apple guy, right?
I am.
You are a big Apple guy. I'm kind of like, I don't have a problem with Apple, but I don't buy the products. And a lot of it is, I don't like their planned obsolescence. I feel like they make products with the point of them having to be replaced after a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. Now, granted, I feel like their products can last longer than that, but they stop supporting things way sooner than other people do. And I don't appreciate them kind of toying with us, especially when you're paying such a high amount
$1,000
for their
plus
products.
for a new iPhone. Yeah.
Yeah, $1,000 plus for a new iPhone. A laptop that has the same capability that you can get for $300 to $500. They charge $1,500 for it. If you're going to get a really decent, powerful one, you're going to spend $2,000 to $3,000. But yeah, so these two articles, one from the Wall Street Journal, the other one from TechCrunch, is talking about one, the EU has told iPhone that they have to get rid of the Lightning charger. And they now have to every phone is going to use the, the European backed. Wait, where did this article go? I was able to read it before.
It's on the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah. There we go. The USB-C. They need to start using the USB-C charging port that basically Samsung has.
Right.
So Android. The Android, yep. And the other one was Brazil is banning the sale of iPhones outright because they are claiming their government is claiming that without selling the brick for the plug into the wall, they're selling an incomplete product. So iPhones are now coming as an incomplete product because they're trying to, in their mind, they feel that, and it's true, that iPhone's just trying to get more money out of the consumers by making them have to buy an extra thing for them to make the product work.
Right. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I agree with. Here's the thing. I feel like private business can do whatever they want. And if people want that product, then they deal with the crap that product puts out, And the reality is, I have so many of those bricks lying around from other things at this point that I don't know if I necessarily need another one, because they just pile up. I remember my wife complaining about not having a brick for one of the things, and I literally just opened my drawer and dug through and pulled one out because I keep them around because you never know when you're going to need to plug something from USB in.
Yeah, it's one of those things where if this is 2022 and you're buying a phone, an iPhone, you don't have a phone charger at this point, I have concerns, I saw it. Yeah, I see a point there. So, but I can also agree that, hey, maybe I'm a young person who's living on my own for the first time and I don't have a buildup of these and I decide to buy myself something nice. Oh, no, I can't charge it, So it is true that they are selling, by some standards, an incomplete product. It would kind of be like buying a car without wheels. Yeah. Now, I forget, does this article say, are they providing a charging cable and no power block, or is it neither of them? No power block and no cable?
No, they have the cable. The cable comes in there, but they don't have the brick.
Right, the brick.
It's this weird thing that Apple started doing with the newer iPhones where they're not putting bricks in with them anymore.
Yeah. They assume you got one. And this whole...
They used to include earphones too, which they don't do anymore.
They did. Yes, they used to do that. I remember that when I bought an iPhone way back.
Which I can say, you can't really say that's needed. No. Like you could try and make the argument, but...
Yeah. Some people say those are coming back, wireless earpiece, wireless headphones or earbuds, I guess you could say. I still don't see that happening. Some people say they're actually going to come back, but I don't know.
I know they're really popular, the AirPods and all that, but
yeah. I mean, let me just break this down for you how big of an Apple person I am. I have an iPhone, got it right here. I have an Apple Watch. I'm recording this on a MacBook Pro. I've got an iPad. I've got the Apple AirPods, and I've got an Apple TV 4K for my primary streaming device connected to my TV. So I'm probably the biggest Apple person as far as Apple devices. There could possibly have like the maximum amount of devices they sell essentially. But I do think they're in the wrong here with the whole USB-C versus Lightning thing. I
you think Apple's in the wrong, or you think the EU's in the wrong?
I think Apple's in the wrong. I think Apple needs to finally, I know they like to be unique, but I have a frustration where, so my wife Laura is a big Android person. She's never going to switch to Apple, and I will likely never switch to Android. So we're stuck here with having to have two different chargers here all the time. Whereas if we just had the one uniform one, then it'd just be better, it'd be simpler, nothing, a little less to worry about. But Apple is so determined about being unique, which is, not bad in its own right, but I think they need to make the I don't know, do the better decision here and just go with USB-C. They're already using USB-C for their iPads. My iPad has a USB-C port. Okay,
interesting.
The iPad does, and the MacBook Pros here that I'm recording has two USB-C ports on it. So they already have USB-C built into some of their devices. So why not just the iPhone already has some defining features to it as far as its camera placement and its appearance. You're not going to lose a whole lot, I don't think, by just ditching the Lightning and making it a USB-C port. I really don't think they're going to lose a whole lot there.
I'm curious as to, is the Lightning even that much faster anymore?
No. In fact, by ports I've read, it's actually a little slower. So the other thing I need to know is, when you plug it in, does it have to be in a certain position, or can you plug it in either way? It can be either way, upside down.
Because that's been the main benefit to me for the USB-C, because like we all got new phones here at the beginning of the year, and it was amazing to switch over to the USB-C, because I can let my kids plug in their own devices now, because they're not going to break it by trying to jam it in the wrong way. Because with the USB-B, I guess it was before, they had to, it had to be in that very specific shape that you had to stick it into your tablets and stuff.
I'll tell you what I really want. I want true wireless charging. And by true wireless charging, I mean Apple has, other phones have what they call wireless charging. But I put that in air quotes because it's not actually wireless charging. You have to set your device on an actual charging pad, and you can't use your phone while it's charging, essentially. So who's actually going to use that? I want to be able to sit in my bed and have like a charging port, 10 feet away or whatever, or anywhere in my house, and I can still use my device and it's still charging wirelessly. That's what I want. That may just be a pipe dream, but that's what I want. I don't think it's wireless charging if you just set your phone on a yes, there's no physical cable running into your phone, but you still have to set your phone on a certain platform, and you can't use your phone while it's charging. So I hate their whole wireless charging thing.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But that's my rant for the day.
If they came up with wireless charging, then they'd probably be close to getting, actual renewable energy. And we could actually advance some things now. Yeah. But yeah, I just found it so crazy that they actually want them, like, because I feel like also that this is kind of, the libertarian in me, the small government guy in me is sitting here being like, I'm not really a fan of this crazy overreach by a government telling a company how they need to do things. But I can also see how it'd be important to have that standard cable for a lot of things. And there are a lot of other types of things. People don't get to choose the cable that plugs into the wall.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like every single cable that plugs into a wall throughout my entire country is the same. Granted, it's different in other countries.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's a different country. That country has different, so you don't get to choose that.
Yeah.
So there is some precedent. There is some precedent for this move, although I personally still think it's a bit much. I still think I think it's kind of Apple getting a well-deserved lesson, because one of the things that I said they do is planned obsolescence. When the new phone came out, they had a new type of charger, and you had to buy that new type of charger to use this phone. And that sucked, because you couldn't just use the charger you had for your old phone. You had to get the new one, and they're not cheap.
No, they're not.
And it didn't come with the phone. So it was just this ridiculous thing that they did that I just feel like they made that move to be a money grabber, and it bit them in the butt, and now they're paying the piper for it.
Yeah.
And like we said, USB-C is just kind of become so universal at this point that it just makes sense for them to do that.
Yeah.
We have like 5 or 6 of them just sitting around the house, so you can plug your phone in the kitchen. You can I have my phone charging right here. I have 2 in the bedroom. I think we have 3 in the bedroom actually.
And
you can charge anywhere in the house.
Yeah. And I do think Apple will go this route eventually. It may take some time, but I did read reports where they are considering moving to USB-C for the iPhone. So I do think it will happen, but they're just kind of being stubborn and trying to hold out as long as they can with their Lightning. That they're just like, no, our Lightning's better. We want to be unique, so we're not going to give in to the USB-C entirely yet. But I think they'll get there.
And in this article for Brazil, it also says that Brazil is thinking about making the same move with the USB-C thing, making that like the required thing for the country. Yeah, I just think it's interesting that there's multiple countries kind of coming against Apple in the way they do their business. Yeah. And I've had an iPhone before, I've longed to own a Mac for my own usage. But I am kind of one of those people who'd be like, I remember posting on Facebook when one of the new iPhones came out years ago, like 5 years ago at this point, being like, hey, if you need help learning all those new features on the iPhone, talk to an Android user because they've been having them for a couple years now. Little jokes like that. So
we just got predictive text, or not predictive texting. We got swipe texting like 2 years ago. And Androids had that since like 2010, I think I read.
Yeah, I had a friend who literally he was like, I will never buy an iPhone because I like swipe too much. And I was like, I didn't even know what swipe was at that point. And then I learned about it and it changed my life for texting.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I couldn't believe when I read that Android had that since like 2010 and Apple just introduced it in 2018 or 2019. I'm like, really? Wow. This is definitely faster.
Yeah. They feel like, I feel like they're cutting edge left when Steve Jobs passed away.
Absolutely. I fully agree.
They were no longer on the cutting edge of things.
He was the definition of innovation. Once he passed, they tried to continue what he was doing, but they have not innovated much at all since his passing. And
nothing has been an innovation. It's been all about features and bells and whistles. And it's kind of like, that's not innovation.
Yeah. Or they'll say things like, this is the fastest iPhone yet. And I'm like, that's all it is. It's the fastest. Of course it should be the fastest. It's the latest model. What are you doing differently? What are you actually doing differently here? Exactly. It's got a bigger screen. Wow. It's got a bigger screen.
Who cares?
So, yeah.
All right. So that's our take on Apple. Our film this week. It's an oldie. Oldish. Older.
It's about...
okay, it's still after 2000, so it's not old.
Yeah, 15 years old at this point. 2007.
Yeah. But the movie we're doing this week is 310 to Yuma. You want to introduce that to us?
Yes. So 310 to Yuma. Let me get the actual... Basically, it's about a farm rancher played by Christian Bale. Name is Dan Evans, who goes on a trip to basically put an infamous outlaw named Ben Wade, played by Russell Crowe, put him on a Yuma train, the 310 to Yuma, put him on a Yuma train to contention to be hanged. So the whole movie is essentially it's about him trying to get him there because Christian Bale's character, he's a very, very poor farm rancher. He needs money. He's going to lose his ranch very soon, and he is trying to find a way to get some money to save his ranch essentially, and to regain his honor at the same time. So it's a Western. It's actually a remake of a 1957 film of the same name, which I have not seen the old. Have you seen the old one or no?
No, not
I have not either. I've heard this one is actually an improvement on that one, which is very rare for a remake to improve on the original. But at some point I'll probably check that one out. But I have not yet.
It was nice this week going into the movie because I knew nothing about this movie. I had no expectations for it. I knew it was a Western. And I knew that it had something to do with a train. I honestly was thinking it was a train heist movie.
Oh,
because I had no idea what was going on. But it ended up being a very different kind of film. Very, obviously reminded me more of the John Wayne, where it's like a long journey through, the West, where they're trying to do one very simple task, so the main example that everyone knows is The Searchers, where he's just spending time trying to find his niece. And of course, by the time he finds her, it's been like 10 years. Obviously, this movie didn't take that long, but it was a similar type thing where it's just a long couple-day journey to get this guy to this train.
Yeah.
And every little detail that happens in between, and, just showing. They had a lot of star power in this movie too.
They did. You got
everybody was somebody who you knew.
You got Christian Bale. You got Russell Crowe. You've got Ben Foster. Who
Alan Tudyk.
Yes, I honestly forgot he was in it. I saw this movie a couple times, like a while back, but it's been probably 5, 6, 7 years since I've seen this movie, and I totally forgot Alan Tudyk was in this movie. I'm like, oh. There he is. Look
Luke
at him.
Wilson.
I forgot he was in it too.
I was like, what? Yeah. So you have all these guys in here, and to me, it just showed like the reality of how grueling and terrible it was to live before the 1900s.
Right.
Because we often forget that. I think that we like to glamorize these older times, this Victorian eras, or, these kings and knights, and, with like fantasy stories, we'll glamorize them. Game of Thrones obviously isn't one of those ones that glamorizes things. But we forget that for most of the people, like, everything sucked. For 99.99% of the people, everything was terrible. It was not an easy life for the men. It was not an easy life for the women. It was not an easy life for the children. The reason they had so many children was hoping that a couple of them might survive and be able to keep the farm or whatever it is running. And also, like, honor systems. We have this idea that, like, the honorable marshal, or, the honorable knight, in older stories. And this movie kind of does away with that, but also kind of plays off of that, like, because they're trying to have Christian Bale be this guy who's like a man of his word, and he's trying to make sure this man is brought to justice.
Right.
But no one else around him has the same sentiments. They're more than willing to just kill this guy now to a certain extent, There's also the fact of like people want their part of their revenge against Ben Foster as well. They run into a group of people who capture him and start torturing him, and they're like, oh, that's immoral. And
oh, you said Ben Foster. You meant Ben Wade.
Ben Wade, yeah, sorry, Ben Wade. Yeah, they want to torture Ben Wade. Ben Foster's the actor of the guy trying to save.
Who plays Charlie?
He plays Charlie. He's trying to get to Ben Wade. He's part of his crew, and he wants to rescue him from these terrible lawmen who are trying to bring the guy to justice. And even one of the guys who's bringing him to justice earlier in the film burnt down the Christian Bale's barn, trying to chase him off his land.
Yep.
It's just like, okay, so this is not really a place where morals line up the way we think they do, or at least not in our modern sense.
Right.
But it probably is a fairly realistic depiction of how things operated back then.
Yeah. And I love just in general how this movie has a moral complexity that, in my opinion, elevates it above a lot of Westerns or even a lot of movies, even, especially like stemming from Ben Wade's character, who we're introduced to. He's the infamous Ben Wade. He's famously brutal. He's this uncatchable thief and murderer who's murdered 20 plus men. But as the film goes along, you start realizing that maybe deep within Ben Wade, there's actually a heart in him, and he's not actually that bad after all. We start realizing this as the more time he spends with Christian Bale's character Dan Evans, that he starts sympathizing with Dan's situation a little bit, even though he mocks his situation at first. Mocking how poor he is and how he doesn't take care of his wife and everything, his family. Little background here: Dan's handicapped. He's got one leg. He's dirt poor. He's about to lose his ranch. His eldest son, William, doesn't respect him. And he's at a breaking point here. And, but the moment here, so it goes through this whole journey, but like towards the end, whenever Wade is about to finally, he's like literally strangling Dan to death. And Dan finally says, quote, "I ain't never been no hero, Wade." And he says that his leg did not get shot off defending the Capitol, as he has told his sons up to this point. It actually got shut off whenever he was in retreat by one of his own men. And the look on, again, this is great acting by Russell Crowe. The look on his face when he realizes that and sees that, he just has straight up, he sympathizes with him. He has pity on him. And we see a different side of him. And Wade realizes that Christian Bale, he's not just doing this job just for the money. He's doing this to try to regain his honor. He's doing this for his family and for his kids. And, Wade has this sympathy for him in a moment that his right-hand man, Charlie, would have, in this situation, still probably ruthlessly, just killed Dan anyway. But Wade is a different person deep down, and we see this different side of him. I also love that Wade uses scripture throughout the movie occasionally. He uses a lot of proverbs, here and there, to kind of justify how his lifestyle and how he lives. Takes things from people and even his killings, and he tries to justify with scripture and everything. So this movie has a lot of actual complexity to it, and I really, really like it for that.
Did you look up the scriptures? Were they legit? I didn't take the time to look them up.
I did not look them up, but I did recognize for sure the first one is definitely legit. I think they are.
Okay.
Pretty sure they are. Yeah.
I just know so often that movies do that, and they'll be like completely like Pulp Fiction is a prime example of just a BS made up verse. But yeah, I know. I wasn't sure. Yeah.
And I really want to kind of mini break down, like I spent too much time, but mini break down what I think is the best scene in the film. And one of the best scenes I've really have seen is when Charlie shoots Dan. Dan gets Ben Wade, he gets Russell Crowe on the train finally at the end, and Charlie comes up behind him and shoots Dan after Russell Crowe says no, don't do this. He still shoots him, shoots Dan down, and Charlie throws Wade's gun to him, and Ben Wade, he just stares at the gun, then he looks up at Charlie, and he gives him this look, and Charlie's like, this whole time, Charlie has turned around, he's looking away from him, but he almost like he feels his look on him, and he turns around, and he stares at him at the same time, and they have this exchange here, where they each know what the other's going to do, and it is just such a great and satisfying scene, so it's so well directed, and... Yeah. It just from acting, directing, and writing standpoint, it's just Charlie is throughout the movie we've seen Charlie is so loyal to Ben Wade, and so just knows him so well that he knows what he's about to do before he even does it, and it's just and I also love how when Charlie throws the gun belt back to Ben Wade, back to Russell Crowe, when he catches it. The frame it's framed how when he catches it, you see Christian Bale lying on the ground, dying. It's just, it's a little subtle thing that to me goes a long way. Just kind of showcase the heartbreak of the moment that here he is lying on the ground, and Russell Crowe finally gets his gun back. He's got his gang back. He's got everything back that he wanted this entire movie. And he's torn, it's just it's a fantastic scene, great moment. And
I was very surprised with the ending of this film. I had no idea where they were going with it.
Yeah.
I also I don't know. I was torn by I didn't quite understand the motivation of Charlie. I don't know if it's the fact that I feel like they could have explained maybe how they were connected a little bit more. Because one of the men does bring up to Charlie, he's like, look, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
At anyone else, he would have left us behind. Why are we sticking our necks out trying to do this stuff? And he's right. He has a point. They even show earlier in the movie where Ben Wade shoots one of his own guys because he's in the way of them getting free. He has no problem sacrificing any of these men. And that man, and he explains to him that man was stupid. He cost his own life because he was dumb. He made mistakes. Yeah. And I just think I don't understand why these men would be so loyal to them. At least with Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, you understood that the two of them were loyal to each other. Mm-hmm. Maybe not to the whole gang, but at least they were loyal to each other. Where here it's a kind of a similar thing, but you don't quite know why.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it just, I don't know. I think it just stems from Charlie being so fiercely loyal to Ben. We don't know how long he's been in the gang. I assume several years. Yeah, he's been his right-hand man, and he's just so fiercely loyal to him. And honestly, I think I mentioned, I love Ben Foster's performance in this. I think he should have gotten an Oscar nomination for this. He's to me, he just steals every scene he's in here. He is tremendous in this movie. I just think people his gang is just intimidated by him. They'll go along with anything he says. They don't question it whenever he says, we're going after Ben. They don't question him one iota.
The other thing I didn't quite get was, what did the two guys who were the decoys think was going to happen to them?
I know that is something where I'm like, so when you get caught, what do you think is going to happen to you? There's no really way out for you. I was just wondering if there was some safety point that they were trying to reach. I mean, I know he shot that. He fired his gun once at Charlie, but even if he kills Charlie, there's other guys there behind him. So I don't know exactly know what the.
And when he shot at Charlie, how did you miss?
Right?
You were 3 feet away.
Yeah, you're 5 feet away from him. And it kind of looked for a second like he hit his neck, but I guess not, because he grabbed his neck like it hit him.
It seemed more like it grazed him. Grazed right by, he felt it, but it didn't quite hit,
Yeah. But yeah, I'm like, I guess, did he expect, what was I going to say? Did he expect to shoot them all down or scare them off? I really don't know. The fact that he let Charlie then left him burn, just again, I love it. Just showed how ruthless he really was. He wasn't gonna, even if he talked, that was another thing. The character, even though he talked, you knew he had to know this was a suicide mission. He wasn't going to get out of this. Even if he disclosed where Ben was going, he knew. He had to have known that Charlie was not going to let him live.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I didn't understand why they would do that, but
some people they took a lot of money. I'm guessing they got paid pretty well for it.
Yeah, I guess.
But
so. Yeah,
we saw later in the movie towards the end how many people in the town turned on them when they got offered enough money, which I thought was another $200. Which back then it's a
huge deal.
Yeah. I think I read that's like $5,000, $5,500 in 2021 dollars. So
really, that's it.
Well, it's enough for some people to they want that money. Money can be a very powerful incentive.
Yeah, but you got to kill people. I don't know, $200 doesn't seem like enough to kill someone for me.
Yeah,
got to be at least in $1 million, couple $100,000 range, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this movie is just, I don't watch a lot of Westerns. I kind of preface that. The Western genre in general doesn't really appeal to me a whole lot, so I haven't watched a lot of Westerns, but of the ones, the few I've watched, this is my favorite. It's got an A-list cast, it has great direction from, we didn't even mention his name, from James Mangold, who I think is a very underrated director, by the way. He did The Wolverine, he did Logan, one of the best X-Men movies out there. He did Ford versus Ferrari, which is a great movie. He's also, believe it or not, he is directing Indiana Jones 5, the final film from Harrison Ford. So that'll be a big test to see if he can pull that off. If he pulls that off, that'll be impressive.
It's funny because just the other day I saw on my Facebook timeline, like, your memories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It brought up when I posted about Logan. I said, oh my gosh, we might actually get a good Wolverine movie.
Right.
Because at that point they were terrible. The other Wolverine movies just did not live up to the hype. And I'm so glad that we did get that one. So this guy knows how to do the suspense, the tension, and also like violence that's brutal, but also has this twinge of like reality. Like, maybe reality is the wrong word, but it's like you feel it. It's visceral. It's not just like, oh yeah, everyone's getting blown away. Like an Arnold Schwarzenegger 80s movie where, there's a lot of violence and gore in those movies. But, I remember like kind of laughing at RoboCop because like, it's just so much out there that it's kind of like ridiculous. Yeah. Like it's so violent. It's so over the top that, it's not really believable, or like, it's just almost a joke at that point. But yeah,
I also love this little thing. I even saw. I was rewatching the scene on YouTube, and I saw one YouTube comment. You know how whenever Christian Bale's character Dan is like on the ground in front of the train, there's no music in this scene. This movie was nominated for 2 Oscars. One was for best music, the other one for sound mixing. So the music, I love the music in this movie, but there's no music during the final scene here that we broke down, and all we hear is like the train kind of puffing kind of rhythmically. And the one YouTube comment I saw was like, it kind of feels like almost like a heartbeat rhythm, kind of like the heartbeat of Christian Bale's character.
I do remember that.
And I was like, that is really, if that was intentional, that is it's a really subtle but brilliant thing to do. I liked that. But I gave this movie a straight up A, 95%. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a highly one you can really rewatchable movie. I do own it. I only own it on DVD though. I bought it way back in like 2012, 2013. So I only have it on DVD, but it is one I actually even own because I liked it so much back then.
I only own it on Vudu.
Okay.
But apparently it was on
it's on HBO Max
as well.
That's actually when I rewatched it last night. I watched an HBO Max. I'm like, that's higher resolution than I'm going to get on DVD. So yeah. Didn't even pull out my solid disc. But yeah, what rating would you give this? What grade would you give this?
I did not think about that at the time I was watching, but I don't know. They just had really great characterization. The acting was top notch. I felt for all the characters.
Really well developed characters.
Yeah. Even Butterfield, like you understood where he was coming from. Like the reality was there were 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Like how are they going to beat this whole gang of 40 men at that point?
Yeah.
Because they put the bounty on their heads.
Right.
So, yeah. So I would give this movie... Yeah, I guess I would give this movie an A as well. Cool. Probably in the like 90, 93, 94 category.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we haven't watched any stinkers yet this season.
Right? Yeah, we've stayed away from those for so long. I'm sure we'll get some along the way, but
have to maybe get someone else to suggest movies for us to watch, and that might maybe. But yeah, this was a top notch movie. It's up there. Even the IMDb rating is 7.7 out of 10, which is actually pretty high for IMDb. Yeah, so
Definitely.
I don't have anything more to say on that one.
Yeah, that is 310 to Yuma. Check it out. If you like Westerns, definitely for sure check it out. Yeah, also, I didn't even mention, obviously it has a lot of action, great action sequences. So you're not going to be, it's really well paced movie. So you're not going to be, you should not be bored by it. So, I mean, definitely check it out if you love Westerns, or even if you don't, I'd still recommend it.
I thought of something we need to change in our show, though.
What's that?
We should announce whatever movie we're doing for the next week. We should announce that week by week, and the reason is so they can watch it before our show comes out.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know,
we were trying to go for the surprise factor, but that's a good point.
I mean, the surprise week by week, not having a plan laid out for weeks ahead of time. Right, I can get that makes sense, but we do need to do week by week and let them know what we're doing, which kind of putting you on the spot here. I don't know what we're doing next week because we've been kind of, making it up as we go.
We really have. Looking at my my list here of ones we were going to be talking about. Question is, which genre do we want to go for? We kind of got to start with genre. I do know. I'm trying to think here. We could do. Maybe for like a mystery, like a Knives Out type situation, or we could go even. I guess this is we could go classic, really classic Hitchcock. Do a Hitchcock movie.
Okay, Psycho or Knives Out. Let's do
one of those two.
I have not seen Knives Out, and I've been wanting to see that movie.
Let's do Knives Out then. I think it's high time you see that one. I saw that probably 3 times in theaters. Really love that one. And it's coming out. You should, I'm sure you know it's coming out. Netflix bought the rights to it, of course. And so they are, I think it's going to be 3 movies right now. Ryan Johnson's returning to direct second and third. I think the second one, the first trailer for the second movie is out. Definitely, I think you'll like Knives Out. So folks, definitely, if you haven't seen it, definitely try to watch it so you can join with us in discussion next week. If you've seen it, go ahead and rewatch it because it's a fun one in my opinion. It's a really, really good one.
Oh wow, it's only PG-13. I did not know that.
Oh yeah, it's only PG-13. Got a fantastic cast. Like I said, Ryan Johnson directs it. He, shall I say, not going to go down a bunny trail. Redeemed himself from Last Jedi. For all the Star Wars fans who hated, don't let that deter you. If you hated Last Jedi, don't let that, factor into it. This is a good movie. Okay. So that's all I'll say about that.
What? It's playing in a theater nearby here.
Really? How's that possible? It's been out.
I have no idea.
Maybe it's one of those, it has to be one of those small theaters that just replays. I mean, that's not too surprising. I do know some movies like Penn Cinema here in Lancaster. Sometimes, like for Thanksgiving, they do planes, trains, automobiles. Like they do bring back movies, kind of with a holiday. But Knives Out's not really a holiday movie. It's a fall movie, I guess. But
Let me see where I can watch it now. All right, so Knives Out for next week, ladies and gentlemen. Knives Out. All right, so I guess we have our last thing would be the season finale to the Rings of Power.
Yeah, a huge episode. This is the 8th episode. This is a huge episode. A lot of questions are answered in this episode here,
and a lot of things that you have to go back and rewatch and be like, "Oh my gosh, no, it was right there in front of you the whole time."
Yes. So I'll give a brief synopsis here of this episode.
Sure.
The stranger is confronted in the beginning by the same mysterious trio of these guys who believe him to be Sauron. But after a battle, the Harfoots manage to steal one of the leader's magical staffs, and the stranger uses it to banish the trio. Elsewhere, Galadriel and Halbrand arrive in Rhegion, and Halbrand offers his advice in combining metals with mithril to make it stronger. After this, Galadriel becomes a little bit suspicious of Halbrand's intentions and finally confronts him after learning that he's not actually in the lineage of the Southland King. Upon which, in a huge scene, he reveals that he's Sauron and extends her an offer of being his queen and joining him in his quest to rule Middle Earth, which she declines. After right? Oh, we'll talk about that. After a brief battle, Sauron flees and heads to Mordor. Meanwhile, Galadriel, Elrond, and Celebrimbor, I forget how you say his name, they forge the Three Rings. And then Elendil and Miriel go back to Numenor and discover the king is dead. And then at the end, Stranger and Nori separate from the group and head to Ruin. And with Stranger remarking, quote, "When in doubt, always follow your nose," which reveals his identity as Gandalf, which we suspected, but we could get that confirmed here. Yeah. So, wow, a huge episode, obviously.
The death of the king and him mistaking his daughter for somebody else is what they did in their 8th episode. That House of Dragon also did in their 8th episode.
Okay.
The exact same thing happened in both 8 episodes of the different shows. Because the king died in episode 8 of House of Dragon as well. And he mistook his wife for his daughter in the conversation he was having, creating, of course, unexpected confusion or expected confusion at that point. But yeah. What do you think of the series overall or the season overall now that this is the end, of the first season? Are you still happy with it, or what did you think?
No, I definitely am. I think, it had definitely had some moments that certainly weren't perfect throughout the opening season, but, they're still trying to get their footing. In some ways, there was some slow movement and character work. It's at first, but honestly, for the most part, I really enjoyed the show. I was surprised by how much I liked it. I mean, it was Lord of the Rings. I knew I loved this world, but I wasn't sure what to expect going into to an Amazon TV series. But I really believe it was a pretty strong first season, and I honestly think they're going to get even stronger going into season 2, since they now know exactly where they're headed and where they're going with these characters. And I knew this was a high budget series, so I was like, this cinematography better impress me, and it did. I was blown away by these shots. It's good direction in these episodes. We had characters to latch on to and care about. The writing was good throughout, and I was very pleased with it.
Yeah, I felt like the sets were very well done. Costuming, some parts of it seemed a little weird. The armor didn't always seem as armory as you would have expected it to be. Armory meaning like as armor-ish. But still very, very strong, I felt, with the looks of everything. There were complaints from people about like short-haired elves and
beardless
other dwarven women.
Yes.
But I don't care. I don't have time for haters who want to hate.
I'm not that nitpicky. I mean, I know some people it's a huge deal, but it doesn't break the back for me. It doesn't, it's not a deal breaker.
I just think it's actually ridiculous to think that all elves would have the exact same hairstyles and it would all be long. I think it's ridiculous to think that they'd all have the same skin tone. I just think, to me, it just doesn't make sense in that way. I don't know. Maybe I'm just naive. Who cares? But so I just think it's nitpicky for nitpick's sake. I felt like this was very strong story wise. Some people have complained about why would the Southlanders not know that they didn't have a king, if he's been out of their line for 1,000 years. But the reality is, if these mythical people pop out of nowhere, save you, and then go, "Hey, this is your king," why would you fight it?
Yeah.
You need a savior at that point. Why would they argue against a savior?
Right.
Like who would look that in the mouth and say, no, we don't need that. And it's just, I think some people just want to hate the series to hate it. I thought it was very solidly well done. Would like to see more of where they're going with it, more of the characters becoming who we know they're going to be.
Right.
Like Galadriel, apparently she's already been married and that guy has passed away. And I knew the husband in Lord of the Rings was her second husband. They still kind of haven't quite solidified the fact that she's like massively older than Elrond, because Elrond actually marries her daughter. So it's this, it's one of those things. And I do feel like they're trying to mimic certain things from that worked in Lord of the Rings a little too hard with like the dwarf and the elf relationship between Gimli and Legolas. They're trying to recreate that with with Durin and Elrond. Yeah. And there's not really anything in Elrond that says he ever had a love of dwarves. But but who knows? Maybe it's fine. But yeah, so there are certain things like that. But yeah, the reveal.
That whole scene. Oh man, I honestly I need to go back. I was going to do it before the recording. I need to go back and rewatch that whole scene where he reveals himself as Sauron. It's just because we know, every Lord of the Rings fan knows who Sauron is and his capability and how powerful he is as a villain. So to see him manifested like this, like in a normal person, it's just it's so disconcerting and terrifying.
Yeah.
It just
well, I don't know how I didn't see it coming.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's so obvious now.
That was something I was like, when I looked back at the, plot summaries of the episodes, and I look back at everything that Halbrand did in each episode, I'm like, Sauron, that's Sauron. I'm like, it was right there in front of me the whole time, but I've told you this, I'm not really good at predicting, twists or anything like that. So it's not my surprise I didn't catch it, but
I think I was just kind of hoping they weren't going with the Gandalf route so much.
Yeah.
But when the three said, hey, you are Sauron, I was instantly like, no, he's not.
Yeah.
When the opening scene happened, I was like, simple. Yeah, there's no way it's that simple. There's no way they would actually reveal it like that. That's not how this works. So he's definitely not Sauron. And he is going to be more, they call them Ishtar, wizard. So obviously he's going, he's Gandalf. And I'm okay with that. I don't care. I know it breaks the lore a little bit, but I just want to see more of this story. I do. I want to see, I just want to see a fantasy thing that's not littered with just like ridiculous violence. Like, how much gore can we put in this episode? In the same week, House of Dragons had a decapitation of a guy, and but it was halfway through his head. So the head drops on the ground and the guy lives there, and, you can still see his tongue kind of wagging, it's just like,
man,
it was
nice visual there.
And they did that purposefully because the one guy goes, I'll have your tongue for that. And then the other guy chops his head off and he goes, he can keep his tongue. They did that literally just so they could have those lines in there, which honestly was a bit cheesy. I'm finding that show to be terribly predictable, even though I haven't read the books. But yeah, this show actually surprised me with the reveal of Halbrand, which I don't know why I didn't see it coming. I think the other thing is I feel like, I don't know. I think I like slower burns. I think it would have been great to have him just situated in there for another season, side by side with Galadriel. and then have it be like, I've been deceiving you this whole time. The one you've been hunting, the one you've given up on hunting,
has been right by your side.
Has been right by your side here. I think that also, like, because people have been wondering, is she going to have a relationship with a human here? That's going to be terrible. I think that actually works now even more. The fact that there's almost this romantic thing going on with them because she's falling for this guy who she hates.
Yes, who she's literally seeking out, and it's driving her crazy how she can't. She's driven crazy about how much she wants to find him, and it's just yeah.
So I'm just it was a good reveal. I think it was a really good reveal. Than the way they have him doing the different visions and stuff that he puts her through to get her to essentially kind of join him, but she obviously doesn't. She tells him bug off, but still very. I don't know what people want out of a show these days. I think they want to experience Lord of the Rings again.
Yeah.
Which is just hard. It's not going to happen.
No, it's always going to be compared to Peter Jackson's original trilogy. It's going to happen. There's no way. There's no escape from that.
None at all. So it's just, I don't know. I would like to see. What do I want to see? I don't know what I want to see more in this show. They're talking about next season because they're already talking about that now. Like revealing some of the Nazgul. The thing is, I don't want to see them become Nazgul. I want to see who are the kings. Because this is the thing: is he's supposed to be giving these rings to humans and giving these rings to dwarves as like a gift, and they're like thinking that they're allying themselves with this guy.
Yeah.
As he's a good person. So to me, there's almost got to be a rift between the humans and the elves, the ones who accept these rings and the ones who know better, especially if he's going to keep that form. If he's going to keep that actor playing the role, then it's got to be this thing of, okay, so who the kings who accept these rings, because I was already pushing for what's his name to be one of the first Nazgul, Halbrand. I just kind of assumed he was going to be something like that because of the fact that he's king of the Southlands. Obviously, the Southlands isn't going to survive. Yeah. It's going to become Mordor, but they did it completely differently. It'd just be interesting to see how it works.
I want to see the development, the origin of the Nazgul. I just because with Lord of the Rings, we saw the 3 books. See this whole the ages before all that. So this is brand new, visually seeing this for the first time, and so I'm just excited. I'm just excited to see all of that: the rise of Sauron, the Nazgul, the development of Mordor, and how they deal with that. It's gonna be, to me, it's very exciting.
Yeah, because I don't know how he becomes this spirit being. I guess that's when they defeat him later on. Right. But it's just interesting. He's a very complex being, shall we say. Yeah, especially since he can turn into anything. Obviously he's similar to what's his name is, Gandalf. So that's One thing I am really seriously disappointed in, though, those rings look terrible.
The rings themselves?
They did not look like elven forged rings. They looked like something that was pressed in a factory and then made into a prop. I was disappointed with those. Those did not look. I literally watched the section where they show them off like 3 or 4 times because I was just like, these are.
There are, as much as I praise, the visuals in this, as far as landscapes and sweeping shots, there are some visual, like just straight up visuals and visual effects. I'm like, that's the best you came up with for this high budget show. I mentioned some of the war.
Somebody claimed it was, some article I read claimed it was 48 million an episode, and I was like, "There's no way in heck,
no way, no,"
because that would end up being almost $500 million for just the first season.
No,
and I can't see them spending that much money. That does not make any sense to me.
It's $1 billion, I believe, for the whole series, which is like 5 seasons. That's what I have read. Yeah, and like 200 of those million were just to get the rights to it.
Yeah, okay. So if they're lumping in all the rights on the first season, then maybe they could claim that. But if it's 200 million for just the rights, then you're talking 25 million per episode is just the rights, like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just can't. Yeah. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power was a good series.
Yeah.
Don't listen to the naysayers. It's worth watching. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to another season. I'm looking forward to all 5 seasons. I hope that they keep me guessing because it is not an easy thing to do. They did it. Maybe I was just not paying attention, or I think I was distracted by the stranger character and nervous to see what they were doing there.
Yeah.
But it worked. I think it worked. I think it was very, very well done. And I'm ready to see more.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have to wait another year or so.
Right. But yeah, that's our show for today. Next week we'll be doing Knives Out, like we said. And do we want to reveal our next show? Sure.
Let's go with the next show.
All right. So we are going to go with the sci-fi series Fringe, which that was, I want to say it ran from, kind of off the top of my head, I want to say like 2007 to 2011, 11 or 12. It ran it has 5 seasons to it. So this will be a big undertaking, but we're excited. It's a really good show, and Mark has never actually watched any of it. I am actually in the process of watching it. I'm in like the 3rd season right now.
Wow, 2008 to 2013. I did not realize that was that late.
8 to 13. Okay.
I thought it was earlier. I would have, if you had asked me, I would have said 2001 to 2005.
Oh no, yeah, I knew it was mid to late 2000s. Just wasn't quite sure exactly. Yeah.
John Noble stars in that show too. He was on Lord of the Rings.
That was the thing I recognized him from. When I started watching it, I'm like, okay, that's him from Lord of the Rings. But now I've watched it so many that I now see him as this character from Fringe. So I think you'll enjoy his character. Maybe not at first, but yeah, it's good. So yeah, hope you join us for that.
It's 100 episodes. We're going to start with season 1. We're going to be doing 2 episodes per week. And after season 1, we'll reevaluate and see if we're going to continue with this show or switch to another show, because we don't want this to get old, but we are enjoying doing more content for you guys and talking about TV shows as well as movies, especially since nowadays I think TV is first of all, it's on the par with film at this point. And they are, they just have much more of an effect on our lives because it's something that we watch a little more routinely than that. So Fringe, we're going to be watching it. It is on HBO Max. It's also on a free app called Freevee if you want to be able to see the shows. So we'll be able to watch it on either of those 2 places. And hopefully you will join us for that for next week.
Yeah.
And that is all we have for you this week. So thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the show. Tell your friends about us. Check out our website and Patreon if you so feel inclined. And as always, stay cool.
Stay cool.